Hey there, cats and kiddies. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be my second submission entry to my good friend TJ Pyramid Joe's 200 subs contest. I want to say once again, congrats, man, very well deserved. And this particular side of the contest was actually something that I thought was very interesting. Essentially, you're being asked to tell a what-if story featuring one of four, sort of what-if scenarios. The four scenarios are as follows. First, there were no clocks. Second, insects were as big as people. Third, smiling was somehow against the law. And four, we used cookies instead of money. And the one that actually stood out the most to me was the third one, smiling was against the law. So kind of operating under that vein, you're supposed to talk at length, for 5 minutes minimum. And I'm going to see if I can do that with this. Just string it along as much as possible. I want to tell a story about 50 years down the line when the Republican machinations that are abounding today in the Fox News syndicates, those kinds of things, which are leading a lot of people, the masses, the roaring, roving masses, by their lemming-like mindlessness through reality TV and hammering home all of these ideas about what life should be like, what moral values you should adhere to, the Bible, thump your Bible, and everything like that. The processed, homogenized news and way you're supposed to be thinking, the lack of education, I would think, 50 years' time, in the extreme, it's not beyond the stretch of the imagination that somebody could come along and say, public shows of affection, public shows of emotion, laughing, unruly, having fun are taking away from the base mentality of productivity, from work and from slaving for your overlords, your governmental overlords or your biblical overlords, whatever you want to say. And so maybe this guy has everybody, under his buck. He goes on Fox News, he goes on to all these places where the roving masses of mindlessness are chomping at the bit and are so easily led, and he says, let's have a law where we say, you know what? You can't smile when you're working. You can't smile or laugh or have fun or talk. You need to do your job. You need to focus on it. Passing along like that is the first step into inevitability when it comes to that kind of thing where, we have this law. You can't be smiling. You can't be laughing. You can't be frolicking while you're supposed to be working. Well, people who are coming into the store or the workplace or what have you are obviously, who aren't encumbered by this particular law are going to be unruly and getting those people to have a lack of focus as well. So we have to have innocent bystanders who are not necessarily working also under this, subjected to this particular law where people aren't allowed to smile and laugh and frolic and have fun, all this kind of thinking. And so people swallow it, the masses swallow it, and they're like, yeah, it should be something restricted to the privacy of our own homes. And so this is something that, by a landslide majority, to everyone's absolute defiance of common sense and mind and compassion and all those things, it just sounds outlandish, but it becomes a brutal reality. 50 years' time, what if smiling becomes illegal to do in public for the average citizen? I would think a lot of people would not be happy with that, but we'd probably be in the minority in the fact that there are so many people out there and thinking in, again, the extreme of this lemming society culture. If they take up the majority, they're going to be the ones who have the landslide say. So will there be a revolution of sorts? Maybe not immediately. I would be thinking maybe, what if this happens, say, 100 years down the line? And in my sort of thinking of this, I'm thinking in terms of a sort of post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy, almost anime-inspired with the recent series Kill La Kill, a futuristic setting where we have this hero, Grin Devlin is his name. He is this lowly paper pusher who he actually dared to sit and dream in his little cubicle beyond this low-swept aspirations that were being, shoveled onto his shoulders. And he takes his love and his interest in history, specifically Japanese culture and samurai culture, and he decides to become a sword-wielding champion of the smile, which actually is something that's prophesized in the earliest stages, that 50-plus years from where we are now, where those first laws are being passed. There's a prophecy handed down, the prophecy of the upturned frown. where they say one day, a hero, a champion for the upturned frown will be our harbinger of good, and he will fight and avenge the doomsayers and the doom faces and all that kind of thing. And so it is he, Grin Devlin, who goes against the national grimacing coalition that is the future government, the world government, where all cultures are having to subscribe to this lack of emotion in public places or anything like that. You know, people, if you're overheard laughing in your apartment, in the next apartment over, the police could come and arrest you, that kind of thing. He can't stand it anymore. It's not a free-thinking society anymore. And so it is he who is responsible for the freeing of the pouting slaves. He ends up having to go through the 7 minions of the Magnus. The Magnus, you know, this is the topmost rulership of the entire world. The Magnus Face Eater is what he is known as. And his 7 minions, Hapless, Rage, Ravage, Doom, Slaver, War, and Maurice. And we have Grin Devlin, you know, having to go through these samurai one-on-one, mano-a-mano battles that culminate with a final confrontation with this just, I mean, you know, worse than Hitler we're talking here, Magnus Face Eater, who, in seeing the power, the sheer power of emotion, of happiness and joy that Grin Devlin exudes, he decides to become an emotionless robot, kind of like the Cybermen from Doctor Who. He becomes this cyberized, cybernetic robot with a complete and utter lack of emotion. He feels like the fuel of his efficiency will be emotionlessness. And, of course, he has his ass handed to him in a brilliant fight sequence, and the what-if scenario of smiles becoming illegal is finally undone and unwound after 150 years' time. So, yeah, I think I've rambled on for a little longer than 5 minutes with this hypothetical what-if scenario, and hope you enjoyed listening to that. I actually think that's a pretty good idea. I might actually take some notes on it and start working on it as a project. But yeah, so that is my part 2 submission to my good friend Joe's TJ Pyramid's 200 subs contest with this what-if scenario, and best of luck to whoever wins. So otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.